Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm joined by Klaus and Kammi. I mentioned in my videos recently that I was going to be doing some interviews with immigrants, and this is the first lot. So, do you want to tell us a little bit more about your family?
Well, Klaus and Kammi, we have a 5-year-old. Klaus is in IT and I do administration and HR kind of work, so that's us.
So making the decision to move to another country is kind of huge. How did that come about for you guys?
Well, we're from South Africa, and the political situation in the country is really hard right now, and we needed to think about the future for our son. I just knew that the future for my son was not great, and we just made a decision together that we wanted to try and do something different for him and give him opportunities in life that he probably won't have if we had stayed. And we wanted an adventure. I mean, we both were born in South Africa, grew up there. Both our dads were immigrants, and we just thought, hey, we'll have an adventure and we can have some fun.
Whose idea was it?
Mine. It was all mine.
And how was that received?
We actually started talking about it when a friend of ours were visiting from France, December 2015.
Yeah.
And we were just chatting about it because she had left the country and she was eventually settling into life in France, which took her a very long time. And Klaus was like, no, we're not going to go, because it's a hard decision to make. We were very comfortable living in South Africa. We had a good life. We both had good jobs. We had a nice house. We had all the luxuries that we thought we had wanted. So leaving and knowing that you're going to put yourself back financially, it was a difficult decision to make. So it was all just chatting and pipe dreams. And then in January when I went back to work, and we just really started talking about it seriously, and I said to Klaus, you know what, we've got to make a decision now, because you're turning 40 soon, and it's now or never. We can't leave this for that much longer. And then he went to a seminar, and initially we looked at some other countries as well, so we had a whole lot of different options that we were keeping open, and then we settled on New Zealand eventually.
I think that's key. When you come up with the initial decision, especially if it's your idea and not his, all you can see is what you're losing. But when you start to see the life, and you can start to picture the life that you could be gaining, it's easier to make the choice.
And I think the most important thing is that you've got to be both on the same page. Yeah. There is no way that you can go through an immigration process of any sort if you're not both on the same page. I think that's one of the first things they told you in that like seminar thing that you went to as well.
Yeah.
It's one of the highest reasons for divorce, or couples split up a lot with this like immigration.
It's like having a baby.
It's really tough because you've only got each other to depend upon. Like when you're living in the country that you live in, you've got friends and family, and you can
support group.
Yes, and now you've only got each other, and you've only got each other for the good and the bad, and there's nothing and no one else initially when you just arrive.
It really highlights any cracks that are there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. And I was a pretty hard no for about 2 weeks, and then a soft no for another 2 weeks, and then something happened. Like personally, friends that were telling us stories and things that kind of opened our eyes a little bit more, and then you kind of moved from, well, me personally, it went from that hard no to maybe we should really be open to this. And then after I went to the seminar, I kind of realized, if what they're showing there is true, and then you have to be open to it, but then also you have to also be very vigilant about the stories they're going to sell you. They're going to sell you all the moonshine and roses, and
you want a balanced view of what you're getting into.
Yeah, you have to do your own research, and that's the basis of where we started, is searches that I started looking at. Kammi obviously got me going, like, start doing this, start.
Yeah, because you were sold on the idea.
I don't think we were quite sold on where, but I wanted to go, and I was like, well, get yourself convinced, because we're going.
And that's how you discovered me.
Yes, and that's actually how. And he was like, oh, look at this woman, like, there's pros and cons, and just check out her video. And because at that point, I think Klaus had started leaning towards New Zealand, and I was still a little bit unsure of New Zealand at that point. And then he was like, oh, look at this video, there's some good points in there.
Yeah.
And so that's how we discovered it. But I think that people need to, I think it's really important to not just focus on what you are running away from.
Yes.
Focus on the adventure of it too.
And the life you want to build.
Yes, because I think a lot of people focus, I mean, for us in South Africa, it's definitely the political situation. So you you are running, you're fleeing from that, you want something better. But I think people focus so hard on that they forget that it's also an adventure, and there's also a lot of fun stuff happening in all of this, in this process. And don't get so bogged down on the negative. Like, try and focus on the positive stuff that you're going to gain from leaving.
And it will help you settle more
Oh,
easily.
absolutely, yeah. And just be open and have fun. And because if you're going with this negativity, you're bringing that negativity with you, and that's not how you want to start your new life, I don't think.
So did you guys visit New Zealand before coming over, or did you just come blind?
No, we made the choice to come without having been here. And the other countries that we were thinking about, we also hadn't visited. So no, we didn't come beforehand. But I mean, in today's age of internet, you don't have to be there. You can Google
you can
anything.
do all the research, you can see it.
There is
So it's
quite a
not
bit
that
you can do, but there is quite a culture shock when you get to whatever country. And in this case,
But it
even
would
New
be
Zealand,
with any country, though.
Yeah, even New Zealand. When I landed in in Auckland for the first time, it was the initial adventure shock, and then afterwards the culture shock, where you essentially realize that life is really different here versus,
in so many little ways.
versus South Africa.
Yeah.
And in those little ways, it becomes one big way, you know, that way, a whole way of life that's different. I mean, people jokingly say, you know, oh, I haven't locked my doors and things. You don't have to live like that, but it's a reality that you're not.
You also
living,
don't have to live behind bars.
You don't. You know, I mean, there are no burglar bars. There's no alarm system in this house. But in South Africa, we had burglar bars and an alarm system installed in our house before we moved in.
So
Purely
feeling
because-
safe has been a bit of an adjustment.
Yeah.
Yeah, and weirdly enough, when we moved into this house that we're living in right now, we moved in and automatically accepted the fact that there are no burglar bars and no alarm system.
You were comfortable with that.
Yeah.
And we were comfortable with that, and our front door stood open for hours at a time without us feeling, you know, like running to the front door to go and check to make sure that nobody's there, or you know that you know there isn't a danger. Because when we arrived here, we automatically realized we've accepted that part of life already.
But there's so many little things that remind you that you're not home. I mean, this is home now, but I remember being in England and walking along the road, and the car exhaust fumes smelled different. It's like little things all the time. It's like just another reminder, reminder.
Everything tastes different. Everything is different. Walking into like a supermarket, or you know, you think, oh, I want to go get this. Where do I get that?
Yeah.
And I think I told you yesterday as well. Like, you have no frame of reference on what is expensive or what is cheap. So you'll be in a shop and you'll want to buy a chair, but you don't know whether the chair at the warehouse is actually cheap, or should you go to Kmart, or can you just buy it here? Is it? So those are things that you need to adjust to, but it's fun. Yeah, it's fun.
But before you get here and start shopping, Klaus, do you want to share your experience of job hunting and how you guys actually, like, which visa you came on and how that happened?
We went through an agency in South Africa, so they gave us a lot of advice on how to get started and things like that. The agency we used specifically only assists you in the getting here part and applying for visas and things like that. Really, a lot of people always think that the agencies are going to help you find work as well. That's not really the agencies.
They enable you to find work with your visa, but then it's up to you.
Like, they helped me. They gave me a template to work with for a CV and things like that. But really, they're more the admin behind you going over and doing it yourself.
Yeah.
Because
you can't expect anybody to do this process for you. It's not going to be easy. There are people along the way that can help you and tell you which documents you need, but you're going to get the documents yourself.
Yeah.
They're going to tell you need to do a proof of relationship document, but you have to do that yourself.
Yeah.
Like this, nobody can spoon feed this process to you. Though.
No, if that's what you're waiting for, someone to kind of do it for you and just say, here's your new life, it's probably not going to work out for you.
And also, you know what? If that is what you're expecting, you're probably not ready to immigrate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've got to want it enough to fight for it, because you're going to have to fight for it.
And somewhere along the line, it's going to get tough. Like, I think, sorry to interrupt your question, but our process so far has been smooth. We honestly have not had any major, like, huge things happening where we're thinking, oh my gosh, this is, shouldn't we? And we've had an easy process in terms of our documentation, just working out and having everything. But even then, it's not an easy process, and nobody can make it easy for you.
No.
There are a lot of highs and lows.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So what visa did they enable you to get for the job hunting?
That's purely a visitor's visa.
Okay.
So when I arrived, so they gave me all the advice and the process that we went through with them, and it's a process that a lot of people go through. Is you arrive on a visitor's visa with the intention, well, showing that you have a return ticket to go back to where you came from.
This was you, just yourself,
It
without
was
your
just
family.
me. I arrived by myself with the intention of never going back.
But you've come on a return ticket.
You have to show a return
Yeah.
ticket because you're on a visitor's visa.
So according to passport control, you intend to go back to South
I
Africa,
intend
but
to
according
go
to
back.
you were here to find a job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you find work in enough time and get your application for a work visa done in enough time, then once that is applicable, you don't have to leave. But I know a number of people have actually stayed here for up to, I think, 6 or 7 months.
Because you
before-
can
so
apply
you
to
can
extend your visitor's visa.
You can extend it twice. You can actually
Yeah.
stay up to 9 months because
Yeah.
it's
So-
a 3-month visa.
Yeah, exactly. So there were people who were staying up to 7 months before for actually finding work, and those are the highs and lows that you go through.
Yeah.
And
when
that's
you
something
arrive.
else, sorry, that you've
you
got to
know.
prepare for is the finance. Like
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
need to be able, because when you're going to look for work, Klaus isn't working. He's here.
And he's paying accommodation costs and living costs.
Yes, he's
At the
paying
same time.
in South African rands for food, getting to interviews, living. We're paying in South African rands to live in South Africa. We still have to continue our life, our medical aid, our security, my child's schooling. I couldn't work full time because I was the only parent and I needed to cart Kai up and down, and I worked far from his school. So I had to scale down my work. Klaus wasn't working. So in terms of the financial impact, I think a lot of people say, how much does it cost to immigrate? But you're focusing on the visas and the plane tickets. But while all of this is happening, you need to be able to fund
Yeah.
this, and it is insanely expensive because
And that's
you're
why
working
there's not one answer to how much does it cost.
Yeah.
'Cause you
Yeah.
could find a job after a week, or
Yeah.
it might take you.
Some people
Up to 9
find
months.
work almost getting off the plane. They
Yeah.
find work. In my case, it was a little bit of a
timing
strange
issue.
Yeah, it's a timing thing. But it was also there was an earthquake soon after the interview that I had.
Welcome
so there
to
were
New Zealand.
delays.
Yeah.
So there were
And it was
delays in
quite
the
a big
process.
earthquake. It was the
And-
one that happened in October, so it was
Yeah.
things were shut down for a while. It wasn't
Yeah.
just a little shake. So
So I mean, I essentially found work. That interview, interestingly enough, was set up. I actually had a video interview the night before I flew to New Zealand, and by the time I got to New Zealand, they were arranging for me to fly to the next interview, the HRE kind of interview.
So it was worth coming over. You kind of already had things in motion.
Yeah,
You didn't just
I
get
think
here
they
started.
were quite keen to see me because I was already on my way. In the
Yeah.
interview, they asked me, "So when are you planning to come?" I said, "Well, I'm busy packing right now."
Yeah, they need to know
And
that
they-
you're serious about
so
it and
they
that
need
it's
to
worth
know-
investing in.
Yeah, they need to know that you're serious as well, because that kind of shifted them, I think, as well,
Yeah.
a bit. But once I went for that interview as well down in Wellington, and I mean that whole interview actually happened within a week of arriving, but it took another 4 weeks to get the full offer in place. But
Yeah.
that
Because they're so laid back.
because yeah, but that's also because they weren't in a rush to employ me. At the time, I didn't know, I didn't understand it, but it worked out for me as well
Yeah.
because I got to actually go home for Christmas and come back.
one thing I wanted to add was, you said that New Zealanders are very laid back, and Klaus was saying that it took about 4 weeks to finalize his job. In all of this time, I'm sitting back in South Africa, not understanding how anything works. He's not understanding how things really work here. He was staying in a homestay at the time, and the people are like, no, don't worry, I'm sure you've got the job, you've done really well, people are just laid back. You're sitting in South Africa going, what is going on? Why is this not happening? Are you going out? Are you finding work? Why are you waiting the whole time? You are stressed out, you're without your partner, you're missing your partner. And
That's the thing, is you're going through such a tough time.
The emotional-
When you most want your partner to be there for support and you're
Yes.
apart.
And I don't want to fight with him because I know that he's missing us even more because he's got no like family support. I was still with my family, but it is emotionally, it's insane, the ups and downs that you go through. And then the guy phones and says, oh no, we are working on the process, and you're like, yes, it's gonna happen. And then I'm like, well, did you phone him back? And Klaus is like, no, I don't want to haunting, but I'm like, what is going on? And
It's
your
beyond
time
your
is running
control.
out. Yes,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you know, are you flying back home or are you not flying back home? Are you extending your? It's so emotional and it's just really tough. And I don't think anybody can make that process easier for anybody else.
No.
You've just got to ride that wave.
And you've got to be prepared for it.
But it has
Absolutely.
to be said though. My process took once the interview and they accepted me for the position. That portion took quite long, but that was purely because they were not in the rush to have me start. They only wanted me to start in a few months' time.
Right.
They essentially had timed it to give themselves enough time to probably find the right person.
Right, and they happened to find you sooner, so then you waited
sooner
to
than
start.
sooner than they needed me. So that's why there was that time delay. But there are people who arrive here and within a week or two they have work, and then it's purely the visa application time that delays.
Right.
So it can take any amount of time.
Yeah.
So it's also another one of those how long is a piece of string questions.
And then for him, I mean, we had stopped working in October, and he had come to New Zealand, and then he had come home on his return flight because he'd now signed his offer, but he was only starting the 20th of February.
So you need
So
to
we had-
return home for Christmas.
Yeah, but we had finished working in October, so we had to fund November, December, January, February, and into March when he was only starting to earn actual New Zealand dollars. So again, the money situation. And for some people it can be a week, and for us it was months. Even though he had a job and he would, yeah, okay, fine, you're going to start working, but we had to find a rental property, we had to find accommodation here, we had to get Kai into school, all on our rands still. So financially
It's tough. And you can make that
Crazy.
decision to wait that time out in your original country or do it
Yeah.
Of
here.
course.
Yeah.
Either way, you're spending rands or pounds or dollars or wherever you're coming from.
currency, yeah.
We made the decision to come over, I think it was 6 weeks before Grant went to college, because it was going to end up costing us about the same. We could get tenants into the house we left in England, and we could wait the time out here. If you're spending the same money, you just have to work out where it's cheaper to do so.
Yeah, we couldn't really get a rental from South Africa, so we needed to come here to start looking for a place to stay, and we wanted to get Kai into school as soon as possible because he needed to start school, so the school year, and we wanted to be settled before Klaus started work. So I think in terms of that, everybody's process is just going to be their process, and they're going to have to do what they're most comfortable with. But it worked out better for us to come when we did, and we obviously timed it as best we could, but it's really expensive, and then you've got to set up house, and you've got to think of things like you've got to buy a whole new pantry, like
All your spices, sugar, salt, everything from scratch, flour.
brand new, like you don't have
At the
any of
same
that.
time, yeah.
And if you're sending a container over, you've got to think of a pot and a pan and a cup, because you don't
Until
have
your
that
stuff
until your
comes.
stuff comes in. You don't want to spend a huge amount of money because your stuff's coming, and that was really tough for us as well, like that
The wait.
interim, yeah.
Sure.
Because what do you buy? Do you buy a chair, even though you've got 12 chairs coming?
But in the
Oh,
meantime, you've got nothing to sit on.
yes,
Yeah.
so that was hard.
Yeah, it's easier if you do have friends or family in the area to borrow from.
Yeah.
And
We didn't.
Kiwis are super generous. It's just finding that contact and breaking in. We were lucky enough to be lent a lot of things, because that time when you're waiting for your stuff is tough. So how long was the process from when you both got on board with the decision to move to actually landing in New Zealand?
1 year.
1 year.
Yeah. Very close to a year, yeah.
January 2016, we said, right, we're doing this, and it was Klaus got on board the second week of January about, and you went for the seminar in the first week of Feb, I think,
Somewhere in there.
and we landed on the 31st of January. So a year, and that was a year of a lot of hard work and a lot of hurry up and wait.
Yeah.
But
Because
the interesting bit
you
there
get-
though is that I went for the seminar for Australia.
yeah, well, because it was something that all the different places that we were looking at.
So we started thinking Australia,
Yeah.
and that direction changed probably about 2 months later.
We were we started
about 2
with
months later, it was-
Canada, and then switched to Australia, and then switched to New Zealand. Just
Mm.
the more your research reveals, the more you start realizing which one's going to be a good
Yeah,
fit for
we
you.
looked at all three of them as well, and it was between Australia, originally Australia, and then became New Zealand.
Once you've accepted that, okay, so your life is going to change, and this is going to change, and that's going to change. I think as you start accepting those things, you start thinking, oh, but then if that's going to change, I want this or I want that.
Yeah.
And then
You start designing a
Yes.
life. Yeah.
and it starts off in a certain way, and then it changes a lot along the way.
Yeah, when you actually stop and realize and start thinking, what do I actually want?
Yeah.
Because initially maybe you're thinking, well, we don't want to be here, but let's look for something similar. But then, as you say, when you start having to start from scratch, you think, well, do I want this again?
Yeah.
Am I just trying to replicate my life, or what I actually want my life to look like?
Absolutely.
Well,
and
that's
when you've got the opportunity to start over,
Yeah.
Do it intentionally.
there's so much that you start considering, and what you think you want changes a lot, I think. It definitely did for us.
And I think that's one of the reasons your relationship needs to be solid. You need to be able to work together and communicate and
Same goal.
make those changes together.
Same
you
goal.
can't just suddenly go into different directions, because if you've got fractures in your relationship, that can be the thing that splits you.
Yeah,
I think
because
so.
that's a weakness that you don't need there.
Yeah.
Especially with the whole move over to here, those weaknesses become the focus
They're
of
completely
of
magnified,
because you'll use that weakness as a reason for maybe your unhappiness, and then using it to just say, well, I give up, I want to go back or whatever. And I think that's
It
what a
can
lot of
interfere,
people what causes a lot of people to go back. Is that, and also because of the reason for going. You shouldn't be going because you're running away from something. Rather go because you're attracted to something.
You want to
Because
go
that
towards
attraction reason is always going to keep you there.
Yes, because you're right. Like, if you're going because you need to leave a place, that happens, and then it stops when you've left the place.
Yeah.
You need something to keep you there.
And the best advice I got when I walked into my boss's office to resign, and it was quite shocking, and we started chatting about why I was leaving, because I'd been with my company for very many years, and he said to me, and he had lived in various countries, and he said to me, there are going to be days where you're going to want to turn back, but just remember why you did it. Like, look at Kai, because that's what I said to him. We're going for Kai's our son. And he said, just look at him. Like, in those moments when it gets so hard, like, you've got your reason right there, so just look at your reason all the time. And I think that's something that's really important.
Tell us about your house finding process. How did you decide on schools? How did that all go? Because I imagine your starting point is where your work is, and then from there you need to decide where to live and where to go to school. So how did that go for you?
So I had some contacts from people that are from the homestay that I stayed in Auckland, and someone there also found work down here. So I used that person's information as well. Used her as a stepping stone in terms of where they ended up staying, because she was also ahead of her family. She didn't go back. She actually waited, and they came around by Christmas. So around that time, which is actually the worst time to look for a house.
Yep.
She found something, and obviously they have a recommendation for their situation, but you have to use that as input for whatever you're going to do.
Yeah, you can't just go on their research, but it can add towards your research.
I was looking specifically for a train commute. So if you go on the bus, it takes longer from closer to Wellington than further where we are on the train.
Yeah. So that was your primary criteria. Like, I'm working here, I want to be on a train line, which then gives me these options to choose from.
Yeah, and then we worked out from where the train stations are, things like that.
One thing about the Kiwis is their work hours is quite flexible. We found with Klaus, like when Klaus phoned the first day, they were like, "Oh, you can start at 9:30, 10ish." Where are we?
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, there's that flexibility. But
that situation
for us, it was also the schools.
Yeah.
So we looked at like what schools were in the areas and how close the schools were. And then those were areas that we looked at, and then we just looked on TradeMe for houses that suited our criteria. We wanted 3 bedrooms because we knew we'd have friends visiting, family from South Africa, those kind of things, and I wanted it to be close to a school. And then we looked at a couple of different properties in this specific area because the schools were quite good and it was a nice area. It was high, like we wanted to be on a hill because we knew there was a lot of damp issues as well. So those were the kind of things that we looked at, and we got lucky with this one.
So you didn't have any trouble finding a house? That wasn't a long process?
It can be a bit of a long process if you depends on how short term you're thinking, because some people say, oh no, you'll find find something really quickly,
And they're meaning
but,
2 months, but that's
yeah,
not quick in your idea.
that depends on what your time frame is. But you can also look for a property and find the right one over time. And also, because there's so many people in the market at one point looking for housing, because there is it feels like there is quite a shortage.
Yeah.
There is, especially in particular areas.
Yeah, and I mean, when we went to go view houses, you arrive maybe a little bit early, someone else is already sitting there waiting, and you know all the people who are sitting outside
That's
of that
very
house.
different
You
from
see
South
them from
Africa.
house to house.
Yeah, it's like 10,
Yeah.
we at one of the viewings we must have had 15 sets of people coming to view.
Yeah.
And everybody
one
comes
house.
at the same time.
Yeah, they do the viewing all at once.
So there's a lot of people walking through, and you trying to communicate with your partner, and it's busy, and also you don't have a babysitter for your child because you're new and you have no one. So your kid is dragging along to all of these places. So that makes it hard. And in our case, we had never rented a property before, and here you almost have to have like a little CV of like or recommendations, references, yeah. And we didn't have those, so that was hard for us. We were fortunate here. There were supposed to be other people at the viewing when we came the day that we came here, but nobody turned up. So we could actually chat to the agent a little bit, and we could build a little bit of a rapport with her, and she actually recommended us for the property to the to the landlord. So we got really lucky there. But if there's 15, 20 other families, you don't get to connect with the agent. They don't get to get a little bit of a feel for you. You're just a piece of paper that comes across their desk, and they're like, oh, you've never lived in this country, you've got no references, no thanks, we'll take somebody with 3 references and a credit check who lives in the country. So it can be really hard. I think we got very, very lucky that we could have that little bit of a personal interaction with a lady, because, I mean, think about it. I'm a landlord, I get 15, 20 applications. I'm going to first go, these ones don't have references, sorry. These ones just arrived. I don't know what their credit checks are, thank you very much. And you're going to whittle it down, and yours will probably end up out of that pile very quickly. So I think we just got really lucky.
There are a couple of things you can do to make it easier for yourself. You can do all your research before you come, so that when you start house hunting, you know if it's a good deal or not. You know what the price is, so you're not missing out on good ones that you later realize that was actually a steal and we should have snapped it up. So do your research beforehand. And another way that you can convince the landlord that you are a good prospect, even though you're a brand new immigrant and they wondering, are these people just going to turn around and leave in 2 months time because they don't like it, is you can offer to pay however many months rent up front.
And we did
that can make you quite attractive. And when you do that, if you say we're willing to pay 6 months rent up front, you can also negotiate and ask them to come down on rent. You may or may not be accepted. That offer may not be extended to you, but it's worth asking. And
we did that. Our property was listed at a certain rate, and you asked for a discount, and we got a little discount. We did offer to pay in advance, but they actually said that they prefer not to do that because they work out of a trust and they pay money out of this trust to the owners or whatever. So but it was something that we offered, and I think, like you said, it did put their mind at ease because they were like, well, obviously these people have a little bit of
intention of staying.
Absolutely.
Oh, it gives you commitment.
Okay, I know this is an emotional subject for you, particularly Kammi. How much stuff did you bring? What size container? How long did it take to arrive?
We started off with we're going to fit into a 20-foot container.
And should have fit in a 20-foot container.
But we really wanted to fit into a 20-foot container, and we really thought we were gonna. And up until, because we had sold our property, and then we put our stuff in storage, and they were like, no, you'll be fine. And then there was still a couple of cubes left, and we took a couple of things to our temporary accommodation, because at this point we didn't even know will Klaus actually get a job. Like, it was a lot of this process is just going on blind faith as well. Like, once you've made the decision, people say, when do I quit my job? When do you think you want to quit your job? It's very, very hard. But so we sold our house. It happened really fast. So we took a couple of things to our temporary accommodation, and then as we did some more research about New Zealand and realized how much things cost, like your white appliances are really expensive here. So we were like, oh, well, maybe we should get a little new freezer, because we couldn't take our freezer because of rust issues. And maybe we should get a new tumble dryer and buy it here versus there, because our tumble dryer we couldn't take with because of dust. And when they then came and checked, like the last little bit of packing, it was like, actually,
Well, at
you
that
need a
point,
40 foot.
We were just over a 20 already.
We were over a 20-foot container, and then it was like, well, right, let's go. We're over a 20-foot already. Let's fill the 40. So yeah, we came over with a 40-foot container, which wasn't quite full, to my disdain. There was still space.
We could have done it in a 20-foot day if we had economized, like really thought about what we were bringing.
But in saying that, what do you not bring? And I've said that a couple of times, like,
you can only know once you're here. So
yes.
You can only know when they're packing. We had some things earmarked in the house that if they don't fit, that's okay, just leave these, which everything did fit, but like just. Because, as you said, all the packing paper, once they've packed it, boxed it, and then put it in the container, then you know how much space it's going to take.
Yes.
They can estimate for you,
but
it helps to kind of earmark certain items, say pack those last, because if they're not going to fit, just leave them.
Yeah, so that was hard. And then coming here, for me, the hardest part was the lack of built-in storage. In South Africa, you've got mostly built-in cupboards. Your kitchens are larger in South Africa. I don't know about other countries, but definitely in South Africa. So coming here, like, there's a lot of boxes that we had to choose. Like, I'm gonna take this cup set and not that cup set, and it's all stored in the garage at the moment. And at some point I'm gonna have to make a decision on whether I'm gonna let that go or keep it until we get a bigger place or whatever.
But you preferred to make that decision here rather than...
Yes, because Klaus,
downgrade.
so many times when he was retaping boxes downstairs, he would say like, oh, why didn't we just leave this stuff in South Africa? And I'd be like, because I didn't know, and I still don't know. Like, what if
renting and it's temporary?
Yes, exactly. And we can put additional storage in. There's a lot of opportunity to build things in, but then how much money do you want to spend on that, because it is just a rental. So I need to just live like this for a little while with whatever I've unpacked, and then I can make those kind of decisions. So knowing what I know now, I would have packed exactly the same things and I would have come exactly the same way.
So there's nothing that you regret bringing, and
no.
There's nothing that you regret not bringing, because you brought all the things.
Yes. I do regret not bringing more makeup.
So when you first arrived in the country, where did you stay until you found your rental?
Yeah, we Airbnb'd it mostly. We landed in Auckland because Klaus had left a couple of things in his homestay, so we didn't fly directly into Wellington. So we landed in Auckland, we stayed there for a couple of days because he did his English test there as well. And then we did a little road trip down. We visited Jen, and when we got to Jen, she was like, so where are you staying in Wellington? And we were like, we don't know, we'll figure that out in the next day or so. We're here for like 3 days.
The next day or so came and went, and they didn't figure it out. And I was like, we are not going out to play tomorrow.
We're not having any fun until you know where you're living. And then we I was like, oh, just book us in anyway, because I want to go have fun. So we ended up staying in like holiday accommodation, which is fine, because we were only there for a week and a half, I think.
While you were house hunting.
While we were house hunting, and we got, like I said, we got lucky to get this place. I think if it was going over like that week and a half to 2 weeks, it would have gotten really bad, because it was a campsite, so we had a little cabin, but the bathrooms were far away. So had winter set in, that would have not been ideal, especially with a 5-year-old, because you've got to go outside to use
the rain.
Yeah, in the rain, to go to the bathroom and shower and all of those things. So we were fine because it was summer and it was just part of our holiday, really. But that's what we did. But accommodation is extremely expensive.
Temporary accommodation, you mean?
It's crazy. I mean, we paid more for this little holiday cabin, which was the size of a closet, per week than we do in our rental. So it's very, very expensive.
So you can use websites like What If to go and find travel or whatever accommodation, temporary, obviously, and so once you figured out what the price is and things like that, but if you can find out how to contact that the
like
hotel
a motel
or hotel or whoever it is directly, you might be able to even get a better price or
request a discount.
A discount. Just tell them, listen, I'm going to be able to come through on this booking then, and you know, this is the price that's on the website there. Are you guys offering a better price at that time?
Yeah.
But that's also where it gets hard though, because you don't know how long you need to book for.
And that's why it helps to talk to them. If you book on the website, you book for 2 weeks. But if you talk,
and that's what we did. We did a
2-week
thing, and when we were able to leave in a week and a half, and we wanted to leave then because Klaus would start work the Monday, so we wanted to be in by the weekend. we couldn't get a refund on our money. Whereas if we had spoken to them ahead of time and said, okay, we'll do a fixed week, can we then maybe do day to day or something, that would have changed things. So just speak to the people where you plan on staying. And
it's all about planning, I think.
And communicating.
But if you know,
can't always plan everything, because we didn't know how long we would need to stay there in the first place. Because what if we didn't get a rental for a month? So it is hard, and it's part of the risk you take, I think.
It's part of the adventure as well. You may have to move around from place to place, but
and it's also part of, and that's why these videos are useful. You don't know until you've done it. Unless you learn from other people, maybe, and you get that kind of
learn from these people.
Learn from us. We're awesome.
We make the mistakes so that you don't have to.
So coming into New Zealand, you need to do an English test. Now, we didn't have to do an English test, but that's apparently new. Tell me about that.
So before, if you could prove that you spoke English, they sometimes did a telephone interview, or if you could prove that you went to school in English and you can give them some certificates, you were fine. They changed the rules last year, October, November. Now, if you want to apply for a residency in this country, you need to do an English test. It doesn't matter whether you are immigrating from the UK or from any other country. You can prove whatever you want. You need to do an English test. They are very fully booked. There's about 5 different options of tests that you can write, including the IELTS and TOEFL, and then a couple of other ones. They are fully booked all over the place, so you can do them in your country. We tried in South Africa, but by the time the rules had changed, there wasn't a lot of time before we would need to leave.
You were on a waiting list?
Yeah. So they were fully booked in South Africa. We couldn't do them there.
But you'd recommend that just do it in your own country before you leave?
It doesn't matter where you do it. The test is the test.
Okay.
But as soon as you know you're coming, start doing them, because they valid for 2 years.
Oh, okay.
So just book it, because what we had to do is, for Klaus, we stayed in Auckland longer than we intended to, because he could get a test on that Saturday. We also had to then change our flight to move it a bit earlier so that he could get over the jet lag to go write the test, because it's a 4-hour exam and it's really intense. And then for my exam, we had to drive to Palmerston North, which is 2 hours away from where we live, to go and do my exam. So it's a 2-hour drive. You're writing a 4-hour exam. So it's really intense. So book the exams and do it as quick as you can. Do some practice tests beforehand, just to get a feel for what you're going to do. They're longer than you think. You feel intimidated, but you're not that intimidated. Once you're actually sitting down, you just want to get through it
and just do your best. And
absolutely, they're not hard. If you can speak English, you'll get through the test. But it's a test environment. Some people test better than others.
She's just rubbing in the fact that English is her second language, and she got a higher score than Klaus.
I did get a higher score. But yeah, so it just depends on how you test, and they are really expensive. The tests are not cheap. I think they're about almost $300. So about
$270, I think.
Yeah, $270. We paid for them from South Africa, because we then booked them from there, because these were the only tests we could get.
So how far in advance did you book the test?
We booked them in probably January, beginning of January. We booked them because at that point we got our visas, so we knew when we would be here roundabout.
Okay, so beginning of January, and then you wrote it end of January?
Well, he wrote it like 4 days after we arrived.
4th of February.
Yeah, we arrived on the 31st of Jan, and he wrote it that Saturday, which was about the 4th. I had to wait another month and a half before I could get a test date for myself. So
and
book them as soon as you know.
We booked them at the same time, but those were the 2 that worked anywhere within our range of.
And there's not a lot of testing centres. There's quite a couple in Auckland, but there's like 1 or 2 in Wellington, and there's a limited amount of people per test. So they just really fully booked, and do it as soon as you can, because they are valid for 2 years. So the quicker you do it, the quicker it's done.
I wanted to talk a little bit about what family have you left behind, and what was that like?
We left behind all our family.
We're the first of our family to. Well,
so parents are all alive, siblings.
My mom and dad are alive, and siblings, and Klaus's mom and siblings are alive. His dad passed away. That's really hard. You're leaving behind older people. In our case, our parents are older. And you've just got to make that. There's no easy answer to this question. I think it's really, really, really hard. but you just got to do it. There's no easy way to leave your family behind. There's no easy way to tell your family that you're thinking of this process. But in my opinion, the sooner you tell them, the better, because it gives them time to say goodbye. It gives everybody time to just process it. And when you have older parents like us, I was able to sit down with my dad and show him how Skype works a couple of times. I was able to do that with my mom. So you can prepare them and you can show them things, whereas if you're going to tell them a week before you leave, you don't have the opportunity to do those things. It's hard to leave your people behind, and it's hard moving to a country where you know absolutely no one. You've got to learn how to make friends. In this country, like, people don't understand, like, okay, there are South African people here, but people don't understand Afrikaans, and if Afrikaans is a way of daily life for you, you've got to get over that and speak English and make friends in English. And
so the losses can be more than just relationships.
Oh, absolutely.
That's part of you.
Yes,
Cultural.
absolutely. There's a cultural thing, and
it's big, and it's a big step.
It's hard.
Even sitting on the train every day, every now and then I will see someone, and you can see a mile away that person is Afrikaans. You can.
But it's not like you're just going to walk up to them and go, "Oh, hi, I'm South Afrikaans. Can we be friends?"
Exactly.
It's weird. You think it's going to be like that. You think you're going to go like.
But that's awkward, because he could be needing a friend as much as you. And it's finding those connections, making those connections.
But I know there's a mom at school that's Afrikaans. Like, there's an Afrikaans family, and oftentimes she parks next to me and I can hear her on the phone having conversations in Afrikaans, and I'm like,
I need to connect with her.
Do I say hello? But that's something I really do want to mention. Like, I think, don't come here and focus on just wanting to be friends with South African people. Open yourself up. There's so much culture here. There are so many different people here. Just open yourself up to be friends with people versus friends with South Africans, or friends with immigrants or and people from your country, because there's so many opportunities to make friends here, and there's awesome people. But you think you're going to always, oh, there's so many South Africans there, I'll make friends easily. But everybody comes for different reasons. People have been here.
There's no flag showing I'm South African.
And people have been here for different times, so they've made their friends or whatever. So I don't know, like,
I do feel if you can find an ice-breaking opportunity, then it's easy to make friends with other immigrants, because they kind of understand what you've been through. You have common ground already. Or with South Africans.
Well, I've made friends with an immigrant, but not a South African immigrant. Like,
and there is kind of an undercurrent of, I get you, like we've been through.
And people are kind of, they're willing to help. Like, they'll say, oh, have you heard, or do you know where?
Or I struggled with this, so I want to help you.
Absolutely. So it's that, but I don't think it should be just, well, I'm from the UK, so I'm going to try and just find UK friends, or South Africa, or wherever. And, you know, if you're a mom, you've got something in common with at least 20 other people in your child's class. So there's an opportunity right there to make friends.
But don't wait for them to make friends with you. Put yourself out there.
And that can be hard for some people. I think I'm quite
it's not easy, but it's also hard not having friends.
Yeah, I'm an extrovert, so I think it's a little bit easier for me. I would quite easily go, okay, I can help with something. Does anybody need help with this or whatever? And I'll do things. But I think if you're an introvert, it can be really difficult, because you've got to pretty much go, hi there, I'm new and I don't have any friends. Like, you're going to go sit on the rainbow bench and hope somebody's going to come and like hold your hand. So, and that can be difficult. But like you said, it's just as hard not having friends, and having somebody who who you can pick up the phone to and talk to makes a huge difference.
And I mean, it was like when we moved into the house as well, we both said, you know, the first thing we need to do is, once we're in, we need to go and introduce ourselves to the neighbors.
As soon as we introduced ourselves, the neighbor brought over a tub of toys for Kai, and she said, I know you're waiting for your stuff. Here's some toys my boys don't really play with anymore. So we had a tub of toys for Kai, which is huge. And the other neighbor brought over like a bowl, and you know, they like, do you need a chair? Like, introduce yourself to your neighbors. People are people, and even though they may not,
something that is bigger than just the introduction.
And they may not have immigrated before, but human beings are human beings, and it's just nice to be able to wave at someone and go like, hi, how's your day, or whatever, and
to not feel so isolated.
Yes, their kid is in the same school as ours, so I've brought their son up from school a day or so where she's been stuck, so it's just a way to make friends.
And then also they're introduced to a lot of solutions to things that you wouldn't have
practicalities.
Inside
recycling.
Because then they tell you,
when's bin day?
When's bin day? That's what we had to figure out.
What do you do with your garden trash? Do you put it in the bin? Are you allowed to?
Yeah.
There's a lot of things you don't know when you get here.
And you don't know that you don't know it until the question arises in your
Until
daily
you've cut
life,
the grass and you're
"Yeah, I
like,
need to ask somebody.
Yeah.
can this go in the council bags? Because we didn't know how that worked. Like, where's the bin? There was no bin here.
In South Africa,
You buy council
everyone
bags
has-
at the shop. Where is the shop that you buy the council bags?
What do I ask for? Yeah.
Yeah, so there's so many practicalities, you just have no clue. And it's nice to be able to just ask the people, because you've introduced yourself, you've said you're foreign, they're willing.
No, you guys haven't been here for long. You came in January and it is now beginning of April. How's the homesickness been?
For me, I've been so busy, I've not had a chance to be homesick. For me, it's still been an adventure, and
Those processes may have already started in South Africa, though.
Yeah, there's a whole grieving process that starts before you come. But like you say, you get busy and you're so busy making a new life and there's so much to learn and do that sometimes it only hits like at Christmas time or oh, it's my child's birthday and you're like, actually his grandparents aren't going to be there. Or so I think it's still early days enough that it feels like a holiday. Would that be correct?
Absolutely. Like when our things arrived and I started packing out, it started feeling a bit more real. But
I had quite a hard time while unpacking. You know, the feelings of like, I know where this was in our house,
and all the memories attached to it,
the memories
and the
attached to
experiences
everything,
and
it just kept on coming. And it was like, you know, that's an emotional roller coaster there that you have to deal with.
I didn't get that feeling though. I was just so excited to get my crafting stuff so that I could start doing stuff again. But until our stuff arrived, there was so much admin. It was Kai's schooling and how does Klaus get to work and how do we pay rent and how do we figure this out and water and electricity and gas and do we need gas? There was so much. I had no time to be sad. Then our stuff arrived and I've just been unpacking, like flat out unpacking. Then we had people coming to visit for a weekend because we have friends. So honestly, I've not had an opportunity to be sad or really think about it. I generally keep quite busy and I don't focus on negative things. I'm not that kind of person, so I'm sure it'll come, and like you say, maybe it'll just be occasionally, like when it's Kai's birthday or when it's my birthday or maybe at Christmas time. But I think make plans for those times as well, and start new traditions as soon as you can, and start thinking of those kind of things and how you can make it different and fun. And
don't plan to be consumed by the sadness.
Yes.
Although sometimes that's what's necessary. I tried to stave it off and distract myself and focus on the positive, and I learned that sometimes you need to go to your room, shut the door, let it come, and you'll cry your eyes out and you'll think you'll never ever feel better and you've never experienced pain and grief like you're feeling, but it actually helps it blow out and pass sooner, and you feel better for it. And that's just how you grieve. You have to feel the feels.
Yes. I haven't had to, I think it's difficult to answer because I haven't had to deal with that yet. I've not been
to that point.
No, I haven't. And also my family's really good at keeping in touch. My mom literally speaks to Kai every single day. Like she phones him every day. My friends and I keep in touch really well.
That helps a great deal.
Yeah, so I haven't felt that huge loss yet, but there's been no significant dates or things happening either, so we'll see.
So moving to a new country, you want to settle down, that's the number one priority, you're like, let's get settled. But I think it's so crucial to be flexible and to be open to a second move. You can end up just being really unhappy in an area, or being unhappy and thinking you're unhappy with your move to New Zealand and it was a mistake, when really all you need is a change of scenery. So you've landed and settled in Wellington to start with, because that's where the work is.
Yes.
Are you going to stay here, do you think?
We're not unhappy with Wellington. We like the city. We like where we're staying is more of a suburb area, so it's not quite as hectic as like town, but we're close to everything, and we do like that. But ideally, one of the reasons we picked New Zealand, I think, is because we wanted the calmer, more sort of rural kind of lifestyle. So that's what we really want to do, and we'll get there. We're happy where we are for now, and I think people, as much as you need to be open to that new move and open to all these possibilities, you're in this adventure and you've just got to enjoy every step of it. Sometimes it's a stepping stone,
but enjoy that stepping stone while you're on it.
Absolutely. Like bloom where you planted for the moment. Like this is where we are. So we're going to explore Wellington. We're going to see all it's got to offer. We're going to enjoy all of those things. We're going to enjoy our home, and Kai is quite settled in his school, so that'll be a big factor when we eventually get to the point where we can move. But we're going to enjoy it while we're here. But this is not the end for us. Like this, there's no brick wall that says we can never move away from here.
Yeah.
So we're open to move, and we want to get to the more rural sort of setting. But those jobs are harder to find. And while we're here, we'll enjoy it. And we do enjoy where we are.
A lot of people seem to be under the impression when the description of Wellington is windy and rainy.
It's windy as Taranaki.
It's not really that windy.
No.
Well, okay, maybe because we come from Cape Town.
Yeah, it can be windy in
people
Cape Town for months in the summer.
So,
Cape Town's like a baby. It's always windy and wet.
Yeah. So the comparative, you know, I mean, if you're going to make a comparison and say, oh, it's windy here, it's like, compared to what though?
Yeah, everything's relative. Yeah.
Because Wellington, yes, you know, containers get blown off ships in the strait. But it's not that windy up here where we are. I mean, it depends on where you are and, you know,
what your class is windy.
Yeah, exactly. Like outside right now, there's hardly a breath of wind, and
it's still out there.
It's beautiful. You can't beat Wellington on a good day. I mean, it's really beautiful. And
everyone says that. Can't beat Wellington on a good day.
Anywhere in New Zealand.
Anywhere in New Zealand on a bad day is a good day. So.
That's true. When you make the decision to move to another country, it's huge. And one of the whys for you guys was a better future for your child.
Yeah.
How has he been through the whole process and moving and settling and homesick and school? What's it been like for him?
Once we made the decision that we're coming to New Zealand, we broached it with our families, and we started telling our families, because we knew if we had told Kai first, he would let something fall, and that would be a complete mess. So we told our families that we are thinking of doing this. We bought Kai a globe. And we started going, this is where Auntie Cindy lives, this is where this person lives, and we started spinning the globe around, and this is where Grandpa comes from, this is where Opa comes from, and showing him that there are different parts of the world. And then we said, and this is New Zealand, and this is where we might want to go live. And we slowly started the process. At the same time, we told the people at his school that we are looking at immigrating. And we didn't want it to come out at school and there'd be confusion there. So we went to his class teacher and we said, look, this is something we're looking into. We're broaching the topic with Kai, and it may come up. Also, at the same time, we didn't want there to be huge changes with him and they think there's something wrong with the home or something like that.
When he's just processing.
Yes, and we wanted their feedback on how he's doing. So we were very open with everybody, which we were cautioned against. People do say don't tell too many people.
Yeah.
But we just felt like we needed to be an open process, especially for Kai. So
why do they say don't tell?
Because you get a lot of negative people going, why are you leaving your country and you're abandoning and those kind of things. And those, when you're already going through something so hard, I think any negative impact is not great. So people warn you against that, and I think that's a personal choice. For us, it was, you know what, we're going to be open. It's our decision, and we're just going to do that. So we prepped Kai that way, and eventually got to the point where, you know what, we are going. And I think, and I think he started getting excited about that. And then,
because you're showing him what his new life is going to look like.
Yeah, and we did some YouTube videos. He's 5, so he has a concept of things, whereas I can't speak for younger or older. So we started showing him YouTube clips, and what was really good was when Klaus was away, he could Skype with Klaus for that little while.
See him in New Zealand.
Yes, and we would say, when we're there, you'd be able to do that with Granny here and with, you know, all the family and all of those things. So he was really excited to come. He was very excited to fly. And we've just been very fortunate in South Africa. Kai was scared. He never went to sleep on his own. He loved his teacher. He enjoyed school, but it was always like, oh, do I have to go? Moving to New Zealand, he went with to both school visits because we had an option of 2 schools. We chose the more sort of informal school versus the formal one.
I think he chose it though.
Yeah, we allowed him part of the process because at the end of the day, he's the one that's got to go there. We gave him the pros and cons.
Giving him the choice, you're not giving him the choice of
bad
like
versus
a good or a bad school.
Yeah.
That's 2 good schools that he's going to choose where he may know someone already.
We did a school visit, which was important as well, I think, for him. So yeah, he helped make the decision of where he wanted to go to school. And the first night we moved into the house, we blew up his mattress, blow up mattresses.
Not exploded it. It's
No,
an air mattress.
we blew up his mattress. And in South Africa, sometimes 2 hours a night to put him down. We'd lie with him and read stories and switch the lights off and fall asleep with him and whatever. I said, okay, I'm going to be back now. He said, okay, just leave the light on. You can switch it off when I'm asleep.
And
I
you just felt comfortable
I
and safe.
stopped and I was like, what just happened? And I walked away and for weeks, I was expecting him
To switch back to that,
call.
that routine,
He never has. He feels completely safe. And we were very honest with Kai about why we're moving. Maybe sometimes too honest for a 5-year-old, but we were very honest about his future, about our safety, and we were honest about what he could expect here. And all of those things has happened for him. And I think that for us, it's always been, we're the adults and we need to make this decision, but he's a part of our family. So he needs to be a part of our decision.
Or included in the process anyway.
Exactly. So he couldn't choose where we lived because he doesn't have a concept of money. But we showed him different options, and as we went to houses, and if we chose it's not a good house, we'd be like, oh, we don't want to live here. And we'd make him feel part of the decision, and that's just something that you need to do as a family, or how your family dynamics work. But for my son, it's been the best thing in the entire world. He is completely happy, loves school, loves the process.
Adjusted quite easily, not really homesick.
No problem, not at all.
I wouldn't even call it adjusting. It's almost like he lives here.
Yeah,
His
teacher, and again, we were very honest with his teacher. I met with her the day that he went, at the first drop off, and I said, look, she knew the situation as well, because obviously we enrolled at the school, and she messaged me and she said, he's fine. And when I had my first little teacher meeting with him at about a month in, she said, if it wasn't for his accent and the fact that you had written on a paper that you had arrived a month ago, I would not have known that you had just arrived a month ago. He is a Kiwi. He's 100%.
Our experience was similar, because you do worry about your kids, and
they
can be anxious.
I was so scared.
Yeah, and they can be anxious about it, and you know that they'll end up being fine, but they don't know they'll end up being fine. And our boys were 5 and 9, well, just turned 6 and 9 when we made the move, and we had one kind of emotional breakdown from our then 9-year-old. And it was kind of triggered by something else, but he was distraught, and that was extremely painful to watch. But I knew to just let him feel the feels and be the safe place for him while he did so. And it passed, and that was honestly all of it. That was it. They were fine. And so many people worry about how their kids are going to be moving, and then also if you make a second move, they'll be fine.
You make friends. You make friends. They make friends. I think as long as your home is a safe place for your children. And oftentimes Kai would be a little bit higher strung at home, and he'd throw a little bit of an extra tantrum at home, and I think that's just how he processes it. But when he's at school, he's fine and he's happy, and I know that because I can see it in him. He goes to bed fine. He's got no night terrors or scary dreams or any of those things, so I know he's fine. And in processing that, if he has to throw a little tantrum at home, you know what, I'm okay with that. Like, we all process it in our way, and
we all have tantrums along the way.
Exactly. And as long as the important things are good, like he's sleeping so well, he goes to bed on his own, he has the confidence to do those things, he's happy at school, he's not crying at drop off, he's excelling in what he needs to excel at. So those are the important things. He's doing fine. Throw your freaking tantrum. I don't say that to him,
but that's how you experience it. I would also check in with my boys. I remember asking Noah once, what is your biggest worry, or what is your biggest worry in life or concern in life at the moment? And he said that I can't drive a car yet. And I was like, you're fine.
Absolutely. Like, what's your best or your worst thing about your day? And it's never missing South Africa, or it's never
even about your
sorry,
life.
Yes.
What's the best or worst thing about your life? And they'll be like, my bike's got a flat tire. They just swing with it. And
absolutely,
I think if the parents can, like you say, be their safe place, be the security for them, everything else is fine. They just adjust.
I honestly believe preparing your family well. When we moved house as well, when we had sold our house and we moved into our temporary accommodation in South Africa, again, it was a conversation I went to have with his teacher. There's this big move, and he's not going to have half his stuff, he's not going to have a bedroom, all of those things, because we lived with family. And she said, your child's fine. And it was because he was prepared. And I really believe that. And I think people need to give their kids more credit than they do.
And involve them in the process,
They can't make big decisions like where you're going to live, but they can be part of the smaller decisions and really feel like they're part of those decisions.
Or even not part of the decision, just being informed along the way, rather than have this thing happen to them. Making the decision to come, you have hopes and dreams of what your life's going to be like, and we talked about being intentional and building a new life. Has New Zealand met your expectations, and what are some things that you've particularly enjoyed so far, and what are some things that you haven't enjoyed so far?
There is something that doesn't meet expectations.
Oh yeah?
Your expectation is that you're going to be able to go and do either online or brick and mortar shopping the same way that you did where you come from.
Right.
So that's always going to be different.
So expect it to be different.
So that's going to be, and that probably stems from the fact that you know, in South Africa the retail shops, they know who they're marketing to.
Right, and it's a different market here.
So it's a different market here, and
100%.
different. You know, so you have your traditional things that are available there that aren't available here because it's not a local product or anything.
But even the same products that are available here and in South Africa might be placed differently.
Yeah.
Or you'd find them in a different place.
Yeah.
And they're also used for different things.
Yeah.
And things that you never thought of now becomes important. Like that damp bread, our car smells a bit bad because of the wet feet. It's been raining for a long time and we never had that issue in South Africa. Now we need to figure out like how do we get a stinky smell out of our car. I've enjoyed the safety aspect, and I think that obviously that'll be different for everybody.
But that met your expectations?
Yes,
yeah.
We feel safe.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's met, and it's more than what you could even consider
because you can't,
coming from South Africa.
Yes, because you can't fathom that. You can't.
Yeah.
You only realize that you should not have to live like that once you don't have to live like that.
Yeah.
I agree.
That's my
that was my experience going to England. When you explaining what it's like and how you live, and you see the horror on people's faces, that's when you realize
it's not normal.
That is not normal, and it shouldn't be acceptable. But that's just been normal for you.
Yeah, because that's how you
in South Africa.
It's not like one day it was fine and one day it was bad. It's
like boiling a frog.
Yes, it's progressive and yeah. So for me, the safety issue, for me feeling like I can drop my son off at school and come home and not be afraid to walk into my house and spend my entire morning cleaning and going about my business with the doors open and fresh air coming in, that's huge. Driving to the shop, I mean, we drove to the shop at 10, 11 o'clock, pitch black dark. That's not something I would have done in South Africa. I wouldn't have loaded a bunch of kids into my car without class and gone there willingly. It would have been an emergency that I would have done that. Like a serious emergency, and I would have had class and probably ADT follow me. Not that bad, it's not that bad. But, you know, that's not something that we would even consider in South Africa to do. Here it was like, oh, the kids want to go, let's go get it sorted out the way on a Friday night at 11 o'clock or whatever. And we went to the shops and it was fine.
So
that
safety
is
exceeded your
huge.
Expectations? Any other expectations of how your life would
be? It's beautiful and it's calm and it's happy, and
I would say it's beautiful like South Africa, but in a different way. You know, it's like when people say the Lord of the Rings movie set, it was awesome or whatever. The whole of New Zealand looks a bit like
you're
Lord of the
permanently,
Rings, like you're
in the movie
set.
When we were driving down to you guys as well, from Auckland, driving down, I was almost every 5 minutes it was like, it looks like Lord of the Rings.
It really does.
We were the same driving from Taranaki to here with the mountain ranges and then the sunset, and it's just like a movie set. It's beautiful.
So it's beautiful, it's happy, it's what you make of it. I think you can go to the most, wherever in your mind you think is the most idyllic place, and you can be unhappy.
Yeah.
If you don't accept that culture as well, and that's huge. You've got to open yourself up to the good things. Because you can so easily close yourself off because you're just so scared, or you're just so, this is not home. It's home now, this is where you are, this is what you've wanted, be happy that it is, and roll with the punches. That would be my best advice. Just roll with the punches.
And that's the best advice.
Yeah, you're going to get good days and you're going to get bad days, and you're going to feel super safe and you're going to feel super crap, and just, you know, go with it.
Because you can experience it anywhere you are.
Exactly. It's like when I quit smoking. You know, something bad happens and you think, I'm going to have a cigarette now. But that bad thing would have happened anyway.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's not because you quit smoking that the bad thing happened. So just accept it and just go with it. So roll with the punches, accept it, and just enjoy yourself. You're going to get a flat tire in South Africa, you're going to get a flat tire in New Zealand.
At least you're safe changing a flat tire.
Exactly. Or you can find the AA, because here I have an AA membership.
So on those words of wisdom, I think we'll wrap this up. Thanks so much for sharing your experience with us.
Yeah.
Cool. Pleasure.
Not a problem. Thanks for being our friend.
Thanks for being my friend.